it's Jan here. I have another original story for you, so grab a blanket, snuggle in. It's called Where Are the Barncats? Back at the cottage on the Orkney mainland, everything felt right again. The kettle knew its job. The hallway smelled of wool and fresh air. The familiar creak on that floorboard gave a little welcome home sigh. Mum carried Sukie in her backpack into the house like the precious royal jewel that Sukie knows she is. Sukie's chin lifted as to say, "Yes, I accept your devotion." Meanwhile, Dad lugged the big backpack, and with a dramatic oof, and out popped Webber and Abby, slightly squashed, very proud, and instantly ready for a snack. "We're home," Mum said, and the word home landed softly on the rugs and the cushions like a warm blanket. Sukie blinked slowly, royalty at rest. Webber gave a brisk shake as though he'd been on a very important expedition, and Abby, she just stretched her front paws and then her back paws and then her whole entire self as she could stretch from travelling right out of her fur. Mum and Dad were busy switching on the lights and the heating. There was a silent chill in the air. Mum began to unpack and put things away. All three cats knew exactly what came next. The cottage inspection. Sukie led, of course. She glided into the living room, hopped onto her big cushion as if she'd never left it. Then she looked around with calm authority at someone checking that everything had been kept to standard. Webber trotted. He trotted way after her, sniffing the skirting boards and the corners like a detective with a very small moustache. Abby padded behind, tail up, ears up, turning in every direction. She adored familiar rooms. Familiar rooms meant familiar sounds. Familiar sounds meant, hopefully, familiar treats. But something was missing. Sukie's ears twitched. Webber paused mid-sniff. Abby froze with one paw in the air. The cottage was quiet. Not cosy quiet, not we're home quiet, and everyone's content quiet. It was the wrong kind of quiet. "The barncats," Mum said suddenly, as if she'd been thinking the exact same thing. "Where are the barncats?" Sukie sat up, taller. She was not, in her opinion, a barn cat. Well, not exactly. She was a queen who happened to visit barn cats. But still, barn cats were part of the place, like the wind, like the sea, like the old gate that always clunked twice. Webber gave a small, questioning "Mirp," and Abby gave a polite little chirp. That meant, "I would like to know where everyone is, please, then thank you." Dad peered out the window. "Usually they're hanging about by now," he said, "especially if they've heard the car." Mum opened the back door and called gently into the air, "Hello, lovelies! It's us!" The wind answered first, brushing the grass flat for a moment and then letting it spring back again. A gull complained in the distance, but no paws came padding, no whiskers appeared round the corner, no friendly meow floated from the yard. Sukie slid off her cushion like a shadow and padded to the doorway, eyes narrow, tail tips flicking, Webber moved to Mum's feet, brave and cautious, like he might need to protect everyone from whatever it was happening. He had no clue. Abby stood on the mat and sniffed and then looked up with a tiny worried face. The barn cats hadn't come to say hello, and that was not normal. Mum pulled on her boots. Dad grabbed his coat. "Let's have a wee look around," he said, trying to sound cheerful. Sukie stepped outside first, as if the land belonged to her. Webber followed close behind. Abby hesitated, then chose the safety of the window ledge, watching them with wide eyes. The yard looked the same as it always was: the gate, the wall, the old bucket by the shed. But the barn itself, usually full of rustles and scuffles and secret cat meetings, looked strangely still. Sukie's nose lifted. Webber sniffed again, ears pointed straight up, forward like two little radar dishes. Then Sukie sensed it. A trail. Not a trail you'd see with human eyes, a trail you could smell. It was a mixture of hay, mouse, and something creamy, something buttery. Sukie's pupils widened. Webber stepped closer. His whiskers twitched. He sniffed once more, and a sound of absolute disbelief. "Did you smell that?" Mum noticed. She asked, noticing, then sudden focus. Dad squinted. "Smell what?" Sukie didn't have time to explain. Humans, oh, you have no clue. She moved forward like a queen on a mission. Straight to the barn door she marched. It was slightly open, just a crack, as if someone or some cat had slipped inside and forgotten to shut it properly. Webber gulped. His tail puffed a little, then unpuffed, then puffed again. Mum reached out a hand. "Should we?" Sukie gave one slow blink, which meant yes, obviously. Dad pushed the door carefully. It creaked, and the creak echoed in the dim space. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, from deep inside the barn came a soft, suspicious sound. Not a meow, not a purr, not even a hiss. It was a munch. Sukie's head snapped up. Webber leaned in and let out the tiniest meow. And then, from behind a bale of hay, two bright eyes appeared, followed by a familiar furry face dusted with white crumbs. The barn cat blinked. Its blink was so innocent, as if to say, "Oh, you're back. Nice." And behind that barn cat, Sukie saw the reason the barn was so quiet. Because every single barn cat was in there. Every single barn cat was doing the same thing, eating something they absolutely, definitely should not have found. Sukie took one step forward and whispered most serious words she knew. "Milk powder." calves and lambs to feed over the spring, and the lambs and calves arrive when nature calls, so the milk powder was stored in the barn. Only now the naughty barn cats had found it. To them it was a treat. To their tummies it was trouble. Dad clapped his hands once. Right, you lot. The barn cats scattered like fluffy shadows. Dad swept up the powder and poured what was left into the proper container and sent Farmer Neil a quick text. But by then the damage had been done, because when morning truly came, Sukie, Abby and Weber were not too surprised at all to see milk powder silly barn cats on the lawns lapping up the water Dad had thoughtfully left out for them. Sukie sat like a judge. Weber looked appalled. Abby, safely back inside, pressed her nose to the glass as if to say, "I knew it. I knew it was going to be nonsense." Mum sighed, but she was smiling. Oh, Orkney. And Sukie, queen of the cottage, blinked slowly as if to say, "It is always good to return." Now for a shorter read, head over to my website, join the club and download the shorter story to read along and watch the shorter video. We have prompts as well. I also have a free early reader version of this story, but it's only accessible to family members. These resources and the membership are free. I'm glad you joined us.